He's lying, Mom, he's always hated me. Those words slid off her tongue with a smirk sharp enough to draw blood. My stepdaughter's eyes glittered with practiced innocence. Her voice trembled just enough to look sincere. And Alina, my wife, the woman I trusted, stood there staring at me as if the verdict had already been read. Hi, my name is Max, and I learned the hard way that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it wears your wedding ring and answers to Mom. You'd think years spent building a home, a rhythm, a future together would count for something. But in a single evening it all collapsed because a spoiled 20-year-old dripped poison into her mother's ear. I remember that night in hard, glassy fragments. The living room light too bright, the silence too heavy, Alina's gaze too cold. Max, pack your things. I can't do this anymore. Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. Are you serious? You're throwing me out because she said something. She didn't answer. She just looked at her daughter with that blind, unconditional love she used to save for me. In that moment I understood, I wasn't her priority. I wasn't even her choice. The wall seemed to echo with laughter that wasn't mine, loyalty that wasn't hers. And the cruelest part? She didn't ask what really happened. No questions. No defense. No second chance. Just exile. I packed in silence. Every folded shirt felt like a funeral. Every pair of shoes dropped into the suitcase felt like a stitch of betrayal. When the door slammed behind me, the night air hit like ice. I stood there with a suitcase in my hand, my marriage crumbling at my feet, and her daughter's triumphant smirk hovering in the window's reflection. But let me tell you something. The world balances its books eventually, and their debt was heavy. 3 weeks later, when Alina showed up asking if I had reflected, asking if I was ready to apologize and come home, I didn't just walk away. I made sure they both felt the weight of their choice. This was not the end. This was the beginning. The first week I slept in a friend's spare room, staring at the ceiling, replaying it all, wondering how years of trust could collapse in a breath. The silence pressed on my chest. Every time my phone lit up, part of me wished it was Alina admitting the truth. It never was. Instead, I saw her daughter's posts, cheap jabs, smug captions, bait for a fight. Some men never learn their place. They wanted me broken. For a moment, I was. Pain, though, is a strange teacher. By the end of that week, I understood. It wasn't her lie that ruined me. It was Alina's decision to believe it. Her silence. Her betrayal. In week 2, something in me went still. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I was cold, steady. The version of me who begged to be believed died the night the door shut. So I started planning. I opened the old document box I'd kept for years. Financial records, property deeds, proof of my contributions to everything we'd built. She thought I would leave with nothing, that she could erase me with a slammed door. She underestimated the quiet men she dismissed. By week 3, I was waking early, cooking my own meals, and writing lists in the calm of the morning. Each day I grew clearer, colder, stronger. So when she finally appeared at my friend's doorway, guilt shaded across her face. I didn't tremble. Max, she said softly. We both need to reflect. Maybe it's time you apologize and come home. The audacity. She wanted me to crawl back as if I were the problem. I smiled, slow and deliberate. I did reflect. I whispered, handing her a neatly prepared envelope. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Divorce papers. For the first time, she was the one left in the cold. She stared at the bold word across the top, then let out a laugh that wasn't laughter. The nervous sound a person makes when the ground tilts beneath them. Max, this is ridiculous. You're upset. We don't have to go this far. I leaned against the frame, arms folded, calm as night air. You believed her lies without asking me once. You threw me out like trash, and now you expect me to apologize. Her voice rose, desperate. She's my daughter. What was I supposed to do, ignore her? The words cut, but they clarified. Her daughter had always come first. I had never been her equal, only convenient. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. You were supposed to be my wife. You were supposed to know me better than anyone. Instead, You chose her story over my truth. Something shifted in her eyes then. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing the life we built together. The steadiness, the finances, the men who kept the house running, paid the bills, backed her when no one else did. Max, don't do this. Let's just talk. I was done talking. My silence said enough. Right on cue, she appeared, arms crossed, gaze full of venom. Good, she sneered. He's finally leaving for good. Mom, let him go. He was always jealous of me anyway. This time, her words didn't sting. They fueled me. I watched the first cracks form in their alliance. Alina looked at her differently. The girl's smug grin didn't soothe. It unsettled. I almost pitied them. Almost. You'll regret this, I said quietly and closed the door. They didn't know I'd already set everything in motion. The latch clicked. Their voices bled down the hallway, muffled scolding, sharp retorts. Music to me. For once, the perfect mother-daughter duet was going flat. Revenge isn't fire. It's ice. It waits. It spreads. Ruin a marriage. She lunged, and Alina grabbed her arm, hissing, "Stop, you're making it worse." Worse. The word lingered. Because yes, worse was coming for both of them. My lawyer filed everything flawlessly, accounts frozen, assets tied up, property under review. For the first time, Alina wasn't in control. For the first time, her daughter's shrieks didn't sway anything. And the sweetest part wasn't the legal wins. It was the quiet knowledge that I had walked away with my dignity intact. My voice reclaimed, and a future that no longer required permission from a woman who chose a lie and a girl who always hated me. It was watching their perfect little bond unravel under the weight of consequences. He blamed her for lying. She blamed him for being weak. Their alliance had once pushed me out of my own home, and now it was eating them alive from the inside. And I wasn't finished yet, because revenge isn't just about taking back what's yours. It's about making sure they never forget the price of betraying you. Court hearings began, and with every session, I washed her mask slip further. The confident woman who once stood tall in our living room telling me to pack my things now sat slouched in a suit, sweating under questions she couldn't answer. My lawyer tore through her like glass under a hammer, and every time she tried to downplay my role in the business, the evidence cut her down. Emails, receipts, contracts, all bearing her signature beside mine. She looked smaller with every revelation, and then there was her daughter who never missed a hearing, sitting in the back with her arms folded and a glare burning into me. She wanted me to feel weak and invisible, but the longer she sat there the more her bitterness showed as people whispered in the gallery wondering why she looked so restless and hateful while I sat poised and unshaken. The turning point came during cross-examination when my lawyer asked her, "Did you or did you not remove your husband from the marital home, without any discussion or proof of wrongdoing?" And she stammered, eyes flicking toward her daughter for help. But the girl couldn't answer for her, and she was alone on that stand choking on her own decisions. I didn't smile or gloat, I just sat there with silence. Louder than words, later that evening as I walked out of the courthouse her daughter followed me to the parking lot with venom in her voice. "You think you've won? You're pathetic. My mom will never forgive you," and I turned without flinching to meet her eyes. She doesn't have to forgive me, but one day she'll realize who destroyed her marriage. And it wasn't me. For the first time her face faltered, small but there. I got into my car with cool leather wrapping around me like armor as city lights blurred against the windshield, and for the first time in weeks I felt something close to peace because revenge wasn't just unfolding in the courtroom. It was unraveling in their home behind closed doors where trust between mother and daughter was shattering, and I hadn't even delivered the final blow yet. The cracks widened faster than I expected as word reached me through mutual friends that their once perfect bond had soured, and she began questioning her daughter. Every word, every story, every late-night excuse. What had been blind trust turned into suspicion until one night she snapped. "You ruined everything." And the daughter screamed back, blaming me, blaming the court, blaming her for being weak. Their war wasn't quiet anymore. It was public, and I stayed silent because I didn't need to interfere. They were destroying each other beautifully. The second court hearing sealed it when the judge ruled in my favor for half the assets and recognized my financial contributions to the business. Her face turned gray as the words echoed in the chamber, and her daughter stormed out halfway through, slamming the door so hard it rattled the walls. That night I received a short, pleading message from her. "Max, please, we can fix this. Let's talk without the lawyers." And I stared at the screen a long time. Once I would have clung to those words, but now they felt hollow and almost insulting, so I didn't reply. Instead, I crafted my final act of quiet revenge as my lawyer, and I arranged to transfer my share of the business into a trust that funded scholarships for women who had been abandoned or silenced, every dollar that left her grasp became a weapon of memory and my pain turned into their freedom. When she found out, her rage was volcanic and friends told me. She yelled at her daughter, accusing her of pushing me to this point, while the daughter screamed back that it was her fault for ever marrying me. Their alliance became ash scattered in the wind. As for me, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment breathing in the cool night air, free and untouchable. I hadn't just left her. I had rewritten the ending, the last. Hearing felt less like a courtroom battle and more like a funeral, hers, not of her body but of pride, power, and control. The judge's ruling was clear and I walked away with my rightful share of everything we built and, more importantly, I walked away free. She sat there with shoulders slumped and her daughter whispering furiously beside her, but even the girl couldn't hide the panic in her eyes as their kingdom crumbled and neither of them knew how to rebuild it. When it was over, I didn't rush out. I stood, gathered my documents, and walked slowly past her as she lifted red, what I was searching for, pity or forgiveness or maybe hope, and I gave her nothing. Outside the courthouse the daughter was waiting with no smugness now, just raw anger that looked like fear. "You destroyed her," she hissed, and I tilted my head, calm as ice. "No, she destroyed herself. You just helped her." Her face twisted but she didn't answer because she knew. Deep down she knew. Weeks later I heard she sold the house, the one I'd once turned into a home, just to cover legal fees, the business that had been steady began to falter without my quiet hand behind the scenes, and the daughter moved out, leaving her alone in a smaller apartment, bitter and broken. But I didn't watch from bitterness, I watched from distance and strength. Because revenge isn't about screaming louder than those who hurt you, it's about living so fully that their betrayal becomes nothing more than a shadow in your light. And as I signed the final papers the clerk slid them across the desk with a polite smile and said, "It's finalized." I traced my finger over the ink, closed the folder, and whispered to myself. I left the courthouse steps and let the city swallow me, not as an exile but as a man returned to himself, and in the weeks that followed I built quiet rituals. Early runs by the river, coffee that didn't taste like compromise, rooms arranged exactly how I wanted. Until one morning an email arrived from the first scholarship recipient whose name I didn't know yet, a woman who wrote, "Your scholarship changed my life," and I realized revenge had already ripened into something softer and stronger. Because while they kept circling the ruins of what they'd burned, I was planting gardens in places no one could torch, and when a mutual friend later said, "She keeps asking why you aren't answering," I simply smiled and let the question drift away like smoke, for the past had become a closed door and I had no reason to knock, and on the night I finally boxed the last relic of that old life. The ring, the keys, the photographs. I walked them to the river and whispered, "Thank you for the lesson," then turned toward the lights of a city that suddenly felt new. Knowing that the truest revenge was never their suffering but my freedom to live a bigger story than the one they tried to write for me.